Welcome to the Positive Thread podcast. I'm Heather McConaughey, registered nurse turned nutrition and mindset coach, podcast host, and inspirational speaker. I have a passion for empowering millennial women because, well, I'm the oldest of the millennials. Think of me like your big millennial sister, here to help you avoid all the mistakes that I made along the way and inspire you to dream big and achieve your goals. Every week, I'll bring you an interview, topic, or Q&A session that will inspire you to transform your body, mind, and soul so you can achieve your dreams and make a positive impact in the world. We believe that when women prioritize self-care, everyone wins. If that sounds good to you, you're in the right place. Are you ready? Let's start the show. Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. I wanted to start by just looping you in on some of the things that I've been going through personally so you kind of understand the state of the podcast. You may have noticed that I'm not posting quite as regularly. My goal is to post every other Sunday, but I have not been generating that quite as frequently. And I really aim to always be authentic and vulnerable with you. I think it's so easy when you have an online business to craft and curate an image that isn't always indicative of what's going on behind the scenes. And I really appreciate honesty and authenticity. I actually love hearing when people I look up to are struggling or going through things, and not because I want them to struggle or suffer, but it makes them more human. And a lot of these people that I follow online, I look up to, and it sometimes seems like their lives are just always perfect. And I think that's just because of the way that we curate things. I am also guilty of that, only showing the highlight reel and not showing the struggle. And I'm really working at being more authentic and sharing with you some of my personal ups and downs. Recently, I posted on Instagram about really struggling with very terrible anxiety. I've kind of always struggled with anxiety since I was a little girl, actually. I can remember my first episodes of anxiety probably when I was like 8 or 9, and just have struggled with that throughout my adult life. I've never been like formally treated for it. I don't take medication for it. And I have just been struggling with it. And it kind of came to a head a few weeks ago. It got really bad. And I kind of had to confront that this is something that I need to really deal with. I know from talking to a lot of you and my friends and reading the news that so many people are struggling with anxiety this year, and it's the other pandemic that we're dealing with, right? Anxiety and depression, the two go together. And I would be remiss if I said that I hadn't also been struggling with some depression. I think I've resisted talking about that because I do feel some shame about it, because this podcast is called The Positive Thread. And I've always prided myself on being someone who generates a conversation that inspires other people. But one of the things that I had to come to grips with is that being inspiring doesn't mean being perfect. And being a leader doesn't mean that you always have your shit together. And being somebody who can motivate other people doesn't mean that you always are on top of things. I'm human. I'm as human as you, if not more so. And it's something that I've had to come to grips with, because when I started my online business, I really had no experience at being online and crafting an image and crafting a brand and communicating a message. Like, these are all things that were super new to me, and they're things that I'm still learning. And I just strive for authenticity. So I hope that you will enjoy me being more authentic about my struggles. And I hope that you'll learn something that will help you with your own struggles today. Today's episode is about my 5 steps to getting unstuck in life. Let's start with a positive affirmation card. These are from Louise Hay's box, which is called the How to Love Yourself cards, a deck of 64 affirmations. I'm just going to pick one randomly, and I'm going to read it for all of us. Every day, I choose to send loving, healing energy to the planet. What I do with my mind does make a difference. My mind is a powerful healing tool. Wow, this really resonates for me, and this is like the perfect card for me to pick, because one of the things that I've personally been struggling with is how negative my mind has been recently and how much I've been listening to my mind. So who here knows that they have a voice in their head and they listen to that voice? Raise your hand or say out loud, yes, that's me, as you're listening to the podcast. So I know logically that I have a voice in my head. I've done a lot of transformational work and courses, and I've been able to distinguish that I have a voice in my head and that I'm not the voice. That said, practicing not being the voice in your head is a lifelong journey. And despite all the training I have and the work that I've done and the personal growth that I do and the coaching that I do and the coaches I invest in, et cetera, I still fall into the hole sometimes. And recently I fell into the hole. I fell into the hole of listening to my mind, and it wasn't telling me very nice things. In fact, everything that my mind was telling me was judgmental, it was negative, it was putting me down, it was fearful, it was futurizing negative outcomes, and all of that was leading to really crippling anxiety for me. One of the life coaches that I've been working with recently has told me that anxiety is futurizing where you're not the winner. I'm going to say that again. Anxiety is futurizing where you're not the winner. And that really struck a chord for me because when I was in my 20s, I really struggled with feeling like a victim and a loser and not a winner. And I actually invented myself as the possibility of being a champion. And that is an energy that I've really brought forth throughout the rest of my life since then and brought it into my business and my fitness and my health and just the results and the things that I want to do in life. But recently I've kind of forgotten that possibility and I fell back into some of that old Heather, that old way of operating. And I want you to really see yourself in this because whether it is a life journey that you're engaged in or it's your health journey, it's very normal to have relapses. It's very normal to kind of fall off the wagon with things. So it's hard to change and we are very habituated as creatures. For example, if you're starting a health and fitness journey and you're like, okay, now I don't eat sugar anymore. Guess what? You're probably going to have a day where you fall off the wagon and you eat candy bars or ice cream. And it's normal and it's okay. But what we want to develop is the muscle, like getting back on the horse faster. So today I want to share with you just 5 really simple steps that I use to get unstuck during this season. And by no means are things 100% for me. Still, like I'm still working through some stuff and I think all of us are going to continue to work through stuff while our world is shifting with the pandemic and the long-term changes. You know, even if we get back to a semblance of our old normal, like the world is like changed forever, right? Like we now see how fragile we are in a new way. We see how fragile our economy is, how things can just get taken down. I think we're going to be dealing with the ripple effect of this for a while. And some of us are more sensitive to it than others. Like I have friends who don't seem that perturbed by the pandemic. And then, you know, I know people who are really affected by it. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, but I've definitely been affected this year. So here are my 5 steps for getting unstuck. Number 1, change your environment. So I've been in Oregon with my parents for about 4 months when this episode comes out. And my plan was always to stay through the holiday season, be with my family for the holidays, and just have some good quality family time while I figured out where I wanted to go next. Honestly, when I left Kauai, I wasn't sure what was next. I was thinking maybe I wanted to move back to California. I didn't know. I was like, maybe I want to go back to Austin. And I just felt very conflicted and lack of clarity. I just didn't know where I wanted to go. I just knew that I needed to get off the island. I was feeling way too isolated and I wasn't enjoying it anymore with the pandemic and I wanted to get off. I wanted to get off the rock, okay? So that said, I've been 4 months in Oregon in kind of a limbo state. I am not really progressing as quickly as I would like to with some of my life goals. I kind of feel like my life in some ways has been pushed pause on, and that's my own doing. I'm completely responsible for that. I chose to come here. I chose to kind of be in this different season of life for a discrete period of time. That said, I started to feel myself getting into weird patterns and habits and ruts, and I started to feel stuck. I started to feel like, oh my God, how am I going to leave this? How am I going to start over? It's scary. It's uncomfortable. I wish I'd never left Austin. I wish I hadn't sold my house. Like I started having like very negative interpretations of my bold risk-taking move of moving to Kauai, which is something I like wanted to do with all my heart. And I wanted to pay off all my student loan debt. And I share this because it's so easy for our minds to rewrite history and like rewrite the story that we're telling ourselves about how like empowered we were when we made that old decision. And I was like very empowered when I moved to Kauai, and I wanted it very badly. And it was amazing. Like living on one of the world's most beautiful islands was incredible. And it had its own set of challenges that I didn't fully understand. And I've learned so much, and at some point I'll probably share more about like what I've learned. I'm still processing it. But the point is I had gotten in a rut here in Oregon, and I knew I needed to shift something in order to get out of that. So step one is change your environment. Now, for me, what that looked like is I actually traveled to Los Angeles to hang out with one of my good friends and spend time with her and her tribe. When you change your environment, what that does is it makes you interact with new people. It breaks your patterns and it breaks your habits and it shows you new ways of living. So when you go and stay with other people, you see completely different ways of inhabiting life, right? From the way that they make breakfast to the way that they practice a morning routine to the way that they think about their day to the way that they socialize. And it kind of jolts you out of your own patterns and habits. So this can also be applied to, say, your fitness routine. Like, let's say you are in a rut or feeling stuck with your fitness. Well, you probably need to change your environment. Like, maybe you need to drop into a new fitness studio, join a bar studio, join a yoga studio. You need to do something to change your environment if you feel stuck and in a rut. So changing your environment is one of the most powerful ways that you can instigate shifting out of feeling stuck. The second thing that I started to engage in is somatic healing, or healing of a more physical body nature. So when I was in Los Angeles, I really started moving my body more. There was a gym that was open, like the only gym in Los Angeles. I don't know how it's open, but it was open. So we went and lifted weights, and I hadn't lifted really heavy weights in a long time. And wow, it was like a shock to my nervous system in a really good way. And it made such a huge difference for me. Weightlifting has been shown to decrease anxiety, and I 100% feel that. I think one of the most challenging things of moving to Kauai was not having a great gym, and I started doing bar classes, which were amazing, but bar was not the same kind of stimulus that my body and mind need to like keep my anxiety at bay. Like I need to lift really heavy weights, and that's why CrossFit I think was so good for me. CrossFit really helped me with my anxiety when I was an ER nurse, which was a very like anxious producing type of job. And so the missing the weightlifting in Kauai then kind of happened in Oregon too with the shutdown of gyms. And honestly, I had a gym here in Oregon and I just wasn't using it. I was going to Orange Theory and I love Orange Theory, but it's not the same with the intensity of the heaviness of the weights. So for me, I personally find that lifting heavy weights makes a big difference. Long walks. So anytime I feel anxiety, I make myself go for like an hour walk and it really clears my head. Again, I'm changing my environment, but I'm shifting my body. I'm shifting energy. It makes a huge difference. Also, yin yoga. So one of the nights that my anxiety was really bad, my friend and I did a yin yoga video at home. You can find these on YouTube for free. You can find them on apps like the Alo Yoga app, all different kinds of resources out there. But one of the things was that I found my anxiety went to zero after the yin yoga. And I really felt energy shift out of my body during that practice. So I highly, highly recommend yin yoga, basically like an adult nap. I also got a massage and she did cupping. And if you haven't had cupping done, it's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a suction, like a glass suction on your skin. It doesn't really hurt, but it does leave some kind of like bruising on your skin. And she did a little energy work on me and I noticed a huge difference there as well. So step number 2 is to do some somatic healing, to move your body in different ways to get the energy out. A lot of times when we're feeling stuck, it's just energy is trapped in our bodies. And for a lot of us during the pandemic, we're not able to get our energy out in the same way that we used to. So we need to come up with new ways to get that energy out. Step number 3 is meditation. I've been meditating for a year now. I started meditating in December of 2019 when I was on Kauai. I committed that month to meditating every day for 30 minutes, and I pretty much did it almost every day. There were like a couple of days I missed, but I was very consistent, and it really helped me create that new habit of meditation. And now I find that like meditation is just kind of a non-negotiable for me. I pretty much do it every day, whether it's the morning or evening or both. And even when meditation feels like it's not working for me, or like I quote unquote feel like I had a bad meditation session, of which there are none, right? But I felt that I was not having a good meditation session, I still know that it was making a difference. It's kind of like when you go to the gym and you do a workout and you're like, I just didn't feel that good during the workout. I didn't feel like I gave it my best, blah, 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 blah. Like, you may not feel that it made a difference, but let me tell you, the fact that you moved your body did make a difference. It made a difference at the cellular level of your body. It made a difference at your muscle fibers. It made a difference with your heart muscles. It made a difference with your blood flow. Like, it made a difference. And so meditation's the same thing. Like, even if you don't feel like it's making a huge difference, it actually is. And it's something that actually calms your nervous system. For me, I'm finding that things that stimulate my nervous system in a positive way, like weightlifting or walking, and then calm my nervous system, like yin yoga or meditation, really helped me balance my energies and get unstuck. Number 4 is take an action. I've discovered that when I feel stuck, there's just like a lack of action happening, and there's probably a lack of massive radical action. Like maybe you're taking little actions, but you're resisting taking like a big action that's going to forward things. And I know for myself that anxiety paralyzes me. So if we think about anxiety as fear, right? It's a fear reaction. Then what are we going to do when we're scared? Well, we're going to flee, right? It's the fight or flight system. We're going to flee, we're going to fight, or we're going to freeze, right? And I'm one of those people that I tend to freeze when I'm scared. So then I go into paralysis and like I just take no action and I do nothing, okay? Which is not helpful because then it just perpetuates the feeling of being stuck. So I find that anxiety chases away action, but action chases away anxiety. And so I took an action. I was feeling stuck in my life here in Oregon. Like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I here? Like, how much longer is this going to happen? When's the pandemic going to end? Like, I want to move forward with my life, but I feel scared and like blah, 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 blah. And so I decided that I would book a ticket to go visit Austin for a week because I'm feeling like Austin is probably where I want to be. It's probably where I want to have my home base. Like, I still want to be able to travel and go to Kauai for 6 weeks and go to LA and visit friends and travel around and do things, but I need a home base. That's one of the big lessons I learned from going to Kauai. So I took an action. I booked a ticket. And this kept me in this momentum of action, right? Like I had visited LA, visited my friend, and I took that action. And then I was like, while I was in LA, I booked the ticket to go to Austin to visit because I knew I needed to just commit. So a lot of times we just need to commit to some type of action. Remember that like paying money for things is when you're fully committed. So like thinking about booking a trip is a lot different than like paying for your plane ticket. When you pay for something, you are now committed. It's the same way when you register for a seminar or a course, or you finally pay your tuition for your college degree, or you hire a coach, or you pay for a house. Like you're committed once you've invested money. So take action, and that's going to really help you get unstuck. My last step is get support. So I found that I was living in a bubble. I was trying to do it all on my own, which is one of my weaknesses in life. I have a tendency to be very independent and to sometimes isolate myself. And this is a weakness of mine. It's something that I've had to come to grips with. It's something that I'm working on, and it's something that I'm really committed to transforming. And I've just discovered that all my complaints around life tend to be a result of being isolated, which comes from me being too independent and not reaching out for enough support. So I'm fully responsible for what I've manifested, and I'm like no problems being responsible for that because now I can change it. And so I discovered that I just needed more support in my life. So I did a couple things. One is I hired a life coach. I got a referral from one of my friends. So I used my friend to find the life coach. So I used support to even find the support. And then I hired the life coach, and I've been working with this life coach every other week. And it's definitely been helping me make some shifts. I also asked for help from one of my people in Austin to help me with my apartment search because I was feeling very overwhelmed with the idea of finding an apartment. You know, I had owned my own home in Austin for 6 years, and it was very comfortable and easy to own a home in a sense. I didn't have to move. I haven't had to find an apartment or anything like that for a while. And yeah, I had to find a house in Kauai, but for some reason, my mind just finds it very overwhelming to find an apartment. It's very weird. Okay. So instead of obsessing over that and trying to fix it, I was just well, let me just outsource this. Let me find somebody who can help me with it. So I found help for tasks that seemed overwhelming. I got a referral, again, from somebody I knew to help me find an apartment. And now I have somebody working on that for me, so I don't have to stress about it. So if you're feeling stuck, you probably need more support in life. I also made a point to share publicly on Instagram and Facebook about what I was dealing with, and there was an outpouring of support. I'm going to do a whole episode on how to cope with anxiety that synthesizes all of the ideas that I received from other people about how to deal with anxiety, because I think it would be so valuable for you. And one of the things I realized was wow, I have a huge virtual online community. I have many acquaintances online. And this is because I've lived in different cities. I have networks in LA. I have networks in Oregon. I have networks in Austin. I have networks in Kauai now. And one of the beautiful gifts of moving around is I have established different networks and communities in different places. And while I'm not present to them physically, in person right now, they are online. They are accessible to me that way. So don't forget about the power of harnessing your online community too, to really source you and give you support. So just to summarize the 5 steps, once again, for getting unstuck. Number 1, change your environment. Number 2, somatic healing. Number 3, meditation. Number 4, take an action, especially a radical, massive action where you have to commit yourself financially to something. 5, get support and ask for help. I hope this episode helps you get unstuck wherever you're at in life, wherever you're at in 2020. I totally get it. Where you're at is exactly where you should be, and it's where you need to be for your growth. I had been resisting the pain and suffering that I have been in and really just making it wrong, making myself wrong, judging the whole experience instead of embracing that oh, I'm on a life journey and I'm learning things and I'm growing and this is all part of my curriculum for being a human. And that's something my life coach helped me with. So I really hope this episode helps you. If it does, please share it with somebody else that's feeling stuck in life. Let's get ourselves unstuck and ready to go into 2021 as wiser human beings, more compassionate human beings, and people who are really ready to grow and transform. Please send me a message on Instagram at Heather McConaughey and say hi. Share this episode to your stories if it made a difference for you, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found this valuable, please take a screenshot of the episode, upload it to your Instagram stories, and tag me at Heather McConaughey with your takeaway. Also, if you love the podcast, please subscribe, rate the podcast, and leave a review. I read all the reviews, and they mean so much to me. New episodes drop every 2 weeks on Sunday, and I can't wait to get to know you better and share more life-affirming wellness, business, and mindset tips with you. Talk to you in 2 weeks.